Welcome to the Bogosity podcast for the 17th of June 2013, the podcast that never takes shale for granted. Get it? Takes it for granted? Okay. This is your host, Shane Killian, and joining me again this week is Lord T. Hawkeye himself, Tim Dyson. Tim, welcome back to the show.
Hello, everybody.
Let's blow the whistle on the news of the Bogus. So, Tim, you've been working on a story about whistleblower Edward Snowden. What can you tell us about that?
Oh, yes. Edward Snowden was, he worked for the NSA. Well, he had tried to get into the military before. He was discharged because he broke his legs in training. And so he ended up getting a job with NSA. Pretty good job. $200,000 a year. Nice house. He had a girlfriend. All things was good. Until the day he had an attack of conscience and he leaked to the public the extent to which that the NSA was spying on people, looking at phone records and all manner of things they really had no business looking at. And he sold his house and moved to Hong Kong because he knew his superiors weren't going to be very happy about that. And they weren't. Yeah.
I got to correct you on one thing. He didn't actually work for the NSA directly. He worked for Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a contractor with the NSA.
Yeah. Okay, well.
It was actually a pretty good job. He was making like $200,000 a year, and he just gave it all up.
Yeah, truly amazing. I sometimes wonder if I could do that.
I know, that's a lot to give up, and now he's in Hong Kong, and he's facing the possibility of, maybe never being able to come back home again. There's talk, who knows if it's true or not, but there's talk that he's going to try to seek asylum in China.
Ron Paul expressed concern they might target him with a drone strike or something. A little far-fetched, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't know if they could get away with a drone strike in Hong Kong.
No, they get away with a lot, so who knows.
So what exactly did he blow the whistle on?
He revealed, I believe it was from Verizon, they got phone records from them and all sorts of stuff like that.
And they also got them from, Yahoo and Skype, which is how we're recording this right now. So they might get a hold of this conversation.
Yeah. Well, it's public anyway, but still.
Yeah. If they were going to come after us, I think they would have done it a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
So what's the big deal about this? I mean, it's just metadata, right? That's what everyone's saying. Yeah, what's the big deal about it?
Well, as Stefan pointed out, that what if you're calling Alcoholics Anonymous, or what if you're calling a suicide prevention hotline, or what if you're calling your doctor about some medication you're taking? That's all your personal stuff. They don't need to know that, and what if they use that against you sometime down the road? Like, if you're speaking out against them, they say, oh, he called Alcoholics Anonymous, he's a drunk, don't listen to him. And all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, and funny thing is, they're actually trying to do that against Snowden himself, saying well, he never graduated high school, which is technically true, he got his GED.
Case in point. And just as I pointed out in a video I did, even if people say, oh, well, I got nothing to hide, first of all, bold-faced lie, you do. Add this together with the fact that laws are so complex that everyone is effectively guilty according to the law. I mean, the tax code alone, everyone is a tax evader on some level according to the tax code. So combine that now with their ability to snoop on anyone they want, that is the power to go after anybody in the country anytime they want to. I mean, is that really the kind of country you want to live in? Certainly not mine.
Well, then let's take two scandals and put them together, because we have this, and then we have that one about the IRS targeting tea parties.
Oh, yeah, heard all about that. Heard some of them were asking certain groups the contents of their prayers. I mean,
yeah.
In what twisted reality does that have any relevance to your taxes?
Yeah. Okay, so we're expected to believe that metadata is not a big deal, so the IRS is going to do this big scandal and go after Tea Party groups, but they would never, ever, ever use the metadata to go after people who donate to Tea Party groups or who contact Tea Party members a lot or whatever. We're just supposed to accept that they're never, ever gonna abuse that part of it.
Oh, no. And let's not even forget the bold-faced hypocrisy of it. I mean, do you see politicians freely admitting where they get their who's and grease in their palms when they're running for office? So they totally need to know where our money's coming from, but they don't have to reveal where what they're doing with your own money. It's like get an investment broker who refused to divulge where he was investing your money. It's my money. Yes, I do have a right to know what you're doing with it.
Exactly. I've always said the same thing about all of these, public bureaucrats. And it's like, well, I don't want people to know how much money I'm getting paid. It's like, but we're the ones paying it. We're the stockholders in the corporation. We're the owners.
Yeah, the public workers are not entitled to privacy. They're entitled to privacy within their own lives, like the rest of us. But what they do when they're on the taxpayer's payroll, no, that's not private. You do not get privacy.
I'm looking on the Wikipedia page for Prism, which is the program he blew the whistle on, and the ones that were actually identified as getting the metadata were Microsoft, Yahoo, Google, Skype, Apple, Facebook, Paltalk, which is not very big, but it used to have this really big skeptical group on it, and I hate that died out because I used to talk to skeptics all the time on that one. YouTube and AOL. Really? There are still people on AOL?
I use the instant messenger.
But I mean, think of how much they can get from that.
Oh, yeah. I have conversations with friends all the time, saying some not nice things about government all the time. And yeah, that's not something anyone else needs to know about. They just don't.
Well, and I think it's something similar to the shifting burden fallacy, because the idea is, why should you have to worry about it as if it's up to us to somehow prove that we get our rights? It's the opposite. You need to prove to me that government's not going to get data that they can misuse or abuse in any way.
It's like I said in my video, when people ask me, why do you want privacy? What are you trying to hide? I say, why do you want power? What are you trying to hide? Exactly.
Yeah, well, hey, isn't that all Snowden did? He violated the government's privacy.
Exactly. So the irony of that should be quite thick. I always remember, I hate to make this comparison, but before the Nazis rose to power, they spent a lot of time grooming the laws in preparation for what they had in mind, and the easiest to give up rights were always the first ones to go. As someone who lived through the Nazism said, first they came for the socialists, and I didn't speak because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews. I didn't speak because I wasn't a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
And that was Pastor Martin Niemöller.
So I have nothing to hide is not a good enough answer.
Hey Hawk, you remember last time you were on the show? Jonathan Lachey told us about internet cafes being shut down because of Florida's anti-gambling laws.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Well, get this. Now they're trying to shut down Chuck E. Cheese.
Didn't we make a joke about that?
We might have.
I'm pretty sure we did. Guys, that was a joke. We were joking. We didn't mean you were supposed to actually do it.
Well, the idea is that if you pay money to play a game, and you're rewarded in tickets that you can use to claim a prize, that's gambling. So kids can get gaming tokens for 25 cents and play the games. Based on their score in the games, they can get prizes valued up to $20. But the law says that coin-operated games of chance can't give out prizes that are worth more than 75 cents. I mean, really? What kind of lame-ass prize are you going to get that's only worth 75 cents?
And I still have not been presented with an actual moral argument for this. And it can lead to, that's not good enough. Anything can potentially lead to something bad. Like, if the machines are deceptive, if they say you might win and then they say, no, you don't get it, okay, you're operating a scam there and that's bad. But it's made very clear what you stand to lose, what you stand to gain. There's nothing wrong going on here.
Well, and also a lot of people are pointing out that these aren't games of chance. They're like, arcade games, or, I mean, I don't know what Chuck E. Cheese has, but a lot of places have like skee-ball and whack-a-mole and things that aren't games of chance that, how well you play them, is however many tickets you get.
Yeah. There are some that are somewhat affected by chance, and there's even a few that are complete chance, although some of them make it look like they're skill when they're actually chance, which is a little crooked, but I really don't think it's something that politicians need to get involved in.
Well, props for best line goes to Hialeah Mayor Carlos Hernandez, quote, "I'm not going to go arrest Chuck E. Cheese in front of a bunch of 6-year-olds.
Wow, so simple.
He's just not going to do it. Hey, that's that nullification stuff again.
Yeah, how come there was no cops going, I'm not going to shut down a lemonade stand, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The people defending this, can they even hear themselves?
I don't know. I keep looking at all these stories and I keep trying to find the one who's saying, won't someone think of the children? Damage is going to be. I can't even find that. They don't even have the cojones to say that.
I think there was a parent in the article saying who tried to sue Chuck E. Cheese over that. It's like, Who gave your kid the money? I don't think he went out and worked for it himself.
Yeah. Someone coming up with a bogus reason to sue a big corporation with a lot of money. Yeah, that never happens.
No.
But Florida is home to Disney World and all those other theme parks, and they have all sorts of things you can do to win prizes. You think they're really gonna go after the mouse?
Yeah, good luck on that one.
Bogosity.tv and all of its services are hosted at GoDaddy.com. I've been a satisfied GoDaddy customer for over 10 years now. Their prices are great, and their 24/7 support is second to none, so I'm happy to be able to give you this special offer. Just sign up for any new domain, web hosting, email, or many other services and get 20% off by typing in the code WOWNOBOGON. That's WOWNOBOGON. Because there's nothing bogus about these savings on quality internet service. Get your own .com with a personalized email address or establish your online business in a snap, all for 20% off. And if you buy before June 30th, 2013, you'll get a whopping 35% off your order, and you'll help this podcast too. Just go to GoDaddy.com and use the code WOWNOBOGON. So, you remember back in the 2008 campaign, how Barack Obama was going to be the savior of our civil liberties that the Bush administration kept violating over and over again?
Like the last guy? And the one before him?
Yeah, I think I have heard that somewhere before. Well, here's something that'll come as no surprise to those of us who were paying attention, and some of us even predicted before the election. But guess what? Obama's record on civil liberties is anything but stellar.
Yes, indeed.
Shocked, I tell you.
Where do we even start?
Well, we've got the seizure of phone and internet records we talked about earlier. We got the IRS targeting Tea Party groups that we mentioned earlier. Gitmo's still open. He raided more medical marijuana clinics in 4 years than Bush did in 8. He executes people by drone strikes in areas where we aren't even at war, even against American citizens. Really, it's hard to think of any civil liberties that Obama hasn't violated.
I'm sure it's there somewhere, but
I don't think he's quartered troops in anyone's home, so I think the Third Amendment is still solid.
yeah, police have already gotten themselves in enough trouble. Don't need the military humiliating themselves on internet cameras now.
Well, that's true.
And the funny thing is, I've talked about people about this, and they said, how come he didn't close Gitmo like he said he would? And they said, oh, he wanted to, but the Congress blocked him and all this sort of nonsense.
Yeah, like he isn't commander-in-chief.
But let's say that's true. Let's say that's true for just a minute. Then you just destroyed the whole if we just get the right guy elected, all will be well argument.
Yep, that's true.
Because apparently electing the right guy obviously wasn't enough.
Well, and he's also given credit for ending Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but that was the result of court orders that the Obama administration was fighting the whole way.
I never considered that a huge victory myself. So now gays can fight in the military. I say, why would you want to?
Well, gays were already fighting in the military. They just weren't having their spouses recognized. You know, they weren't called when their spouse was in the hospital. They didn't get the benefits or anything like that when someone was injured or killed in battle or anything like that. So that was the problem.
I don't know. I never understood why you'd want to fight for a country who bullies and mistreats you like they do.
But that's their decision, I guess.
Yeah, I can't stop them.
But see, now there's a Reuters article covering all this. So hopefully this will finally start getting more attention and more outrage from liberals. I mean, can you imagine if Bush even did half of all this, how up in arms they would be?
Yeah, and this is what makes Barack Obama more dangerous than Bush, is because he's completely silenced the anti-war people.
Yeah.
Like when Bush was doing it, at least he was getting under fire for it. Obama, through a lot of pearly smiles and a lot of charisma, has just completely shut that all down. So now it's being done completely unrestrained, nothing stopping him.
Well, that's like I've pointed out several times before. You know, in 2008, leading up to the election, he had all these anti-war rallies, and there were like hundreds of people there with Obama signs. Then after Obama got elected and took office, you had an anti-war rally and you had a dozen libertarians and a tumbleweed.
Yes, and that's the same problem. These people aren't activists. They're just sports fans. I support my team because he's my team.
Yeah.
No principle or anything behind it. They weren't anti-war. They were just anti-Bush.
That's true. But one thing they talk about a lot to justify this is the supposed balancing of our constitutional rights with compelling national interests. Funny, I don't see the words compelling national interests anywhere in my copy of the Constitution.
Yeah, and this is why the argument completely fails, even according to your own laws. They swore an oath to that. That's a legally binding argument. So you don't get to just go against it just because it's inconvenient for you. If you want to renegotiate, okay, there's a procedure for that, but you don't just break it whenever it's convenient, because then it's not really an oath.
Right. But you know where this idea of balancing rights with government interest comes from?
Where?
It's a precedent from the Supreme Court case where they upheld the internment of Japanese Americans in World War II.
Oh.
That was the justification they gave for that, and that gave them the precedent to use that same justification for all the rest of them.
It's like what George Carlin said about rights. Go look up the internment of the Japanese. That's your rights right there. I mean, do you see anybody in jail for that, even though that was clearly an overextension of their authority?
Yeah. Well, and my point is, if you're using this argument to justify government intrusion into our lives, well, congratulations, you're using the exact same justification that was used to put American citizens into concentration camps just because they had slanted eyes.
If you learn anything from Obama's administration, learn that charisma doth not a good man make. Obama put on a good show, but actions matter. Words don't. Though, stop listening to what politicians say and start looking at what they're doing.
I know, I keep saying it over and over again. I really hate doing cops behaving badly stories. Because really, you could do a whole podcast with nothing but that. I keep saying, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore unless it's something extreme. And then what do you think happens?
Something extreme.
Yep. A homeowner in Ohio called animal control over a litter of kittens she had found in her woodpile. And the homeowner assumed that the kittens would be taken to a shelter and humanely euthanized if good homes couldn't be found for them. But that's not what happened. When Officer Barry Accordi arrived at the scene, and this is according to the executive director of the Ohio SPCA, quote, he informed her that shelters were full and these cats would be going to kitty heaven. He went to his truck and got a gun, which he thought was a tranquilizer gun, and walked around to the back of the house and approximately 15 feet from her back door, shot and killed the 8 to 10 week-old kittens.
Oh.
She was very distraught when this happened. He started shooting them right in front of her. Her children were upstairs in view of the windows. They started screaming and crying because they heard the gunshots. They started screaming, "Mommy, he's killing the kittens."
Absolutely wretched. I mean, even if that absolutely was the right thing to do in that situation, they definitely should not have done that in front of children. They did not need to see that.
And what do you think happened to the officer?
A whole lot of nothing?
Well, according to an official statement from the North Ridgeville Chief of Police, quote, after visiting the scene, talking with the responding officer, and re-interviewing the complainant, I have decided his actions were appropriate and have decided not to impose any disciplinary measures for the incident. At no time does this agency condone or allow the indiscriminate killing of animals, but we will continue to assist residents when there is a safety or nuisance condition.
Safety condition? They're a bunch of kittens.
But look at the bones!
Ugh.
It's a killer rabbit!
The only thing less dangerous than them is snails in your garden. Good grief.
Well, the snail was coming right for him. He had no choice.
Oh.
Another week or two and he would have been right on top of him.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Well, on the police department's Facebook page, they got so many complaints from citizens that they just took down their Facebook page to stop people from commenting on it. So yeah, there's how much government loves your feedback.
Unbelievable. Police often wonder why they get no respect. Well, the thing is, the older generation who remember the good old days about how good and noble the police were, those people are dying out. And they're being replaced by a generation who have been targeted by police, who have been harassed by police, or know people who have been, or people like these kids who their first experience with police was seeing this. So, lack of respect really should not come as a shock, guys. You want respect, you're gonna have to earn it. And shooting defenseless animals is not gonna get you that.
History is written by the winners, and so apparently is economics. That's why there's Liberty Classroom. Probably the best single learning resource for history and economics on the web, Liberty Classroom teaches U.S. history, Western Civ, and economics from actual university professors. There's lots of free material to get you started, including introductory lectures on all these subjects. And when you sign up, you'll get the full site's content for just $99 a year, less than the price of 2 cups of coffee a month. And if you type in the promo code Bogosity in all caps, you'll get your first year for just $88. Lectures are available in both video and audio format, so you can watch or listen to them on your computer, your phone or tablet, or in your car. Learn at your own pace about the subjects you're interested in and become a more effective debater. You'll also get access to lots of supplemental materials and even the professors themselves via the discussion forum and even live video chats. Inform yourself against the myths and propaganda of our society. Visit libertyclassroom.com. And now it's time to pat down this week's biggest bogon emitter. And I'm sorry, but it's more cops behaving badly. This time it goes to the police department of the city of Surprise, Arizona, for pulling over 64-year-old retired firefighter Jesse Thornton. Now, Thornton works late hours, so he does a lot of night driving, not just driving home, but also doing whatever errands he needs, like going to Walmart or, whatever's open, that time at night. And as a result, he's been pulled over a lot. Quote, "I've been stopped 10 times in Surprise and given 4 tickets. It's amazing." Well, now he's apparently had the last straw, and this has prompted him to hire a lawyer to sue the department because of what happened. It was 11 p.m., he was pulled over, and according to Thornton, the police officer said, "I can tell you're driving DUI by looking in your eyes." And here I thought they had to use things like blood tests and breathalyzers.
Yeah, having bloodshot eyes can mean a whole lot of things. You could have an infection, who knows?
Well, the officer said he was going to give Thornton a sobriety test, so Thornton informed him that he has bad knees and a bad hip, and that makes it difficult to walk and do a lot of, stand on one leg and do a lot of the other things they make you do in a sobriety test. Medical documents back this up. He was scheduled to have hip replacement surgery 2 days later. Well, they made him suffer a whole bunch of indignities, and this included not allowing him to adjust his seat in the back of the squad car to make it more comfortable on his hip. And they took him to headquarters and gave him a breathalyzer test. And do you know what he blew?
Nothing.
0.000.
Case closed, right?
You'd think. Also, a blood test showed no traces of drugs either. And after examining him, their drug recognition expert wrote in the report, quote, "I conducted an evaluation of Jesse. In my opinion, Jesse was not under the influence of drugs or alcohol."
But that wasn't the answer they wanted to hear, right?
I guess not. They impounded Thornton's car and he was charged with a DUI. His license was suspended, and he was informed that he'd have to take a class about drinking and driving.
So, whether you commit a crime or not, they still get to bust you anyway. This just goes back to what I said before. In their eyes, everyone is guilty. Except them, of course.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the whole, well, if you're not doing anything, what do you have to worry about? Well, Jesse Thornton wasn't doing anything, and look what he had to worry about.
Obviously a lot.
Hey, I'm going to tell you something that might just actually come as a little bit of a shock.
Yeah?
Jesse Thornton is black.
Oh,
yeah.
There we go. The truth comes out now.
Well, that's what Thornton and his attorney Mark Victor say. They call it DWB, driving while black. Now, I can't read minds. I don't know if that's true or not. But what is true is he was harassed without any legitimate reason whatsoever.
It certainly doesn't make them look any better, that's for sure.
So now he's suing the city of Surprise for $500,000, and I gotta tell you, that sounds kind of light to me.
Yeah, for all the harassment, yeah.
Well, and the idea is not just to get him compensation for harassment. The idea is to disincentivize them from doing it again.
Yeah. The problem is that's the taxpayer money he's ultimately going to get, so they really don't care even if they do lose.
Yeah. It'd also be nice if some of these police officers got fired and even prosecuted for abuse of power and assault, but what are the chances of that happening?
Oh, whenever that does happen, it always takes public pressure, when truth is the police department should be the first ones throwing these guys under the rug. At my job, I'm just a worker, and yet if I assaulted somebody or abused my power to do something I didn't have the authority to do, I'd be out on my ear right on the bat. There wouldn't even be a discussion over it. Why exactly am I being held to a higher standard than what the police apparently are?
And these police as well swore an oath to the Constitution.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I don't know what anyone else can do about it, but all I can do is name the Surprise Arizona Police Department this week's biggest bogon emitter. Which means there's someone out there even worse, so brace yourself for this week's Idiot Extraordinaire! And this week it goes to the city of Hartford, Connecticut, where an 82-year-old man was arrested for criminal cutting hair and trimming with malice aforethought or something, I don't know. I'll just tell you what happened. Anthony Cymerys has been cutting hair in a city park for 25 years. He gives haircuts to the homeless, and the only thing he charges them is a hug. Well, that's sweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like this guy. Yeah.
Yes, I do.
And last year, he was honored by the city for his charitable deeds. So guess what happened?
They came down on him all of a sudden.
And why?
Because he doesn't have a license?
He doesn't have a barber's license.
Oh.
The fiend. See, it's these kind of dangerous 82-year-old barbers without licenses that we have to get off the streets.
It's ridiculous. Our parents all cut our hair somewhere down the line.
Well, and they gave the old line about citizens being concerned about health, safety, and sanitation, although they don't seem to have come up with any actual citizens who complained about it, and after 25 years, you'd think if there was a problem, they'd be able to point to one person who was sent to the hospital or whatever. Nope, nothing.
Yeah, so now they can come down on you, not based on evidence, but based on a hunch.
We think you might possibly do something that may cause someone some kind of harm in the future, so we're going to shut you down.
Again, is this really the kind of place you want to live in? It really shows the attitude they have towards the homeless. Because when you're homeless, when you're poor, it's hard to get a job because you need to be dressed nicely. You need to have your hair done nicely. You want to make a good impression if you want to get work. So this guy was helping them to get towards that goal, and the city was getting in the way. I mean, does this not tell you what the government really wants is to keep the poor so they can keep milking them as an excuse to get more tax money?
I don't know. Well, they talk about the citizens who complained. Who wants to bet they were cosmetologists and maybe even ones on the licensing board?
Probably. Or just some busybody who's got a thing against the homeless being in his eyesight.
So once again, we see government cares about its cronies more than it does the homeless.
Yes, indeed. That would be a great idea. What if welfare was actually spent on giving homeless people haircuts, nice suits, or something like that? And maybe even a cell phone, because that's what's a big obstacle for a lot of them is people don't want to hire someone that they can't call when they need to cover a shift.
Well, I mean, you can get one of those pay-as-you-go phones with so many minutes a month, however many minutes is enough to, call around and try to get jobs.
But if the poor climb out of poverty, that means less budget money goes towards welfare, and there's special interests who don't like that. So you've got these very bad incentives for helping the poor here.
Government incentivizes failure. Well, at least there's a happy ending in this one case. They've let him back into park after actual citizens complained until they were blue in the face. Mayor Pedro Segarra granted Cymerys special dispensation. Well, and I guess that's good for Cymerys and the homeless people he's helping out, but really, is that how government's supposed to work? I mean, I thought we were supposed to have equal protection where the same rules apply to everybody. If you can just use special dispensation to bypass a bad law whenever people see how bad it is and complain, then the bad law just ends up staying around, and who knows how many other people get hurt from it.
Oh yeah, but you've seen what a hopeless exercise it is to try to get rid of laws. Can't say I blame the mayor. At least he got a happy ending out of it. Tragically, a lot didn't.
Yeah. And all that is what makes the city of Hartford this week's Idiot Extraordinaire! Well, that wraps up this Takes a Licking and Keeps on Ticking edition of the Bogosity podcast. Please visit the forums at bogosity.tv, where you can read the show notes and join the discussion on these and other subjects. This podcast is free but not free to produce, so please donate via PayPal or Bitcoin at the top of the Bogosity.tv website or down the right-hand side of the podcast page and give generously to keep this podcast going. And if you'd like to contribute to the podcast, just send a question, statement, news article, or rant to podcast@bogosity.tv. Put it in an audio file, and if it's good enough, it'll get played right in the podcast. Thank you for listening, and thanks once more to my co-host, Tim Dyson.
Oh, a pleasure as always. Be aware and be wise.
And until next time, here's a quote from Jim Babka. A scandal is when you find out how a state agency or bureau really works. Firings and reform are the minimalist tools to salve your anger. Then it's time to get back to scandalous behavior, this time more shrewdly disguised from you. The Bogosity podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 3.0 imported license.
Bogosity.
Do you want answers to creationist claims against evolution? Would you like to know more about evolution yourself, or even engage creationists more directly, with actual peer-reviewed sources to back you up? My book, How Evolution is Scientific, is designed to show the basics of evolutionary theory and how it is so well supported using the scientific method. It's impeccably sourced, with references to the actual scientific material, and is arranged using the creationists' own criteria of what is scientific. Using their own arguments against them, see how evolution is scientific, but creationism is not, based on observations, accurate predictions, logic, and evidence. Get answers to common creationist claims, and even a primer on abiogenesis, the start of all life. It's all in my book, How Evolution is Scientific, available at Amazon and on Kindle, EPUB, and PDF as well. Get How Evolution is Scientific and never be taken in by creationists again.